The story of Aphrodite and Adonis is relatively well known, and certainly the name, if not the backstory of Adonis, is of universal notoriety. The goddess of erotic love, Aphrodite, falls in love with the beautiful young man, Adonis. Adonis is attacked by a boar, gored in his thigh, for which read groin, and dies. And Aphrodite laments her castrated, dead lover. It's a myth that has inspired many painters, artists and poets, including Shakespeare. It's a tale with a dark erotic subtext and cultic significance, echoes of exotic fertility rituals, female lust, and male castration fears. Indeed, what's always struck me about the myth is how it evokes that fine line, that threat, that Adonis should be so irresistibly attractive to women that even a literal sex goddess should pursue and seduce him against his will in many versions of the tale. And yet, having become her willing or unwilling lover, he's utterly emasculated, castrated, killed, and then fetishized, worshipped in death by Aphrodite and generations of mortal women since, rituals that were viewed with distaste and suspicion by, for example, ancient Athenian men. But enough of that. Instead, what if, to adopt that common pop culture trope or meme, what if the tale was told from the boar's perspective? Welcome to Ancient Classics. The other day, I was flicking through my old blurb of the Greek bucolic poets, J.M. Edmonds' shitty Edwardian translation, which has since been replaced by the late, great Neil Hopkinson's edition. I came across a poem I'd not read or even heard of before, ΕΙΣ ΝΕΚΡΟΝ ΑΔΩΝΙΝ, to the dead Adonis. Well, I thought I'd check it out, but I assumed it would be just another poem about Aphrodite lamenting over Adonis's corpse. I figured it might even have a little bit of Hellenistic maudlin softcore erotica, perhaps with some light necrophiliac vibes thrown in for good measure. Thought it might be mildly entertaining, in a creepy kind of way, but I didn't expect this. To the dead Adonis. When Aphrodite saw Adonis dead with dishevelled hair and pale cheeks, she told her erotes to bring the boar to her. At once, the winged spirits dashed throughout the forest, tracked down the dread boar and bound him in fetters. One fastened a noose and dragged the captive boar. Another stood behind and drove him on, striking him with his bow. The beast made his way wretchedly, for he feared Aphrodite. And Aphrodite said to him, "Most wicked of all beasts, did you gore his thigh? Did you strike my man?" And thus spoke the beast. "I swear to you, Aphrodite, I swear by you and by your man, and by these chains of mine and by these hunters. I did not wish to wound your beautiful man, but I gazed on him as an idol, and unable to bear the passion, I was driven by a mad desire to kiss his naked thigh. So thrash me, take the tusks that I bear and sever them. Punish them, Aphrodite, for why do I bear such excessively lusty tusks? And if that's not enough for you, then take my lips too. For why did I dare to kiss?" And Aphrodite took pity on him and told the erotes to release the boar from his bonds. And after that, the boar followed Aphrodite and did not return to his forest home, but he approached a fire and burned away his tusks. So, the boar, far from being the agent or incarnation of Aphrodite's jealous lover Ares, or some representation of the terrors of the wilds that must be conquered by real men, was merely infatuated by the beautiful Adonis, worshipping him as an erotic idol, an agalma, and all he wanted to do was kiss his thigh. The Greek verb here is philein, whose primary meaning is, of course, to love. But It is also commonly used to mean to kiss, a meaning which is clear here from the poem's references to the boar's lips, and indeed his tusks, his excessively lusty tusks. Perissos eroticus odontas. The adjective eroticus, which I've translated as lusty, obviously means pertaining to erotic, sexual desire, and the noun odontas, commonly here translated as tusks, just means teeth, which I believe is anatomically correct, though I don't think the ancient Greeks differentiated between a boar's tusks and regular teeth as we do in the English language. Evina Sistakou, in her paper The Wound and the Kiss, The Morbid Pleasures of Post-Theocritean Aesthetics, notes that the poem features an unexpected blending of imagery, the eroticism of the lips transferred to the carnivorous teeth of the boar. Its kiss becomes a lethal weapon against Adonis, or, as I would put it, the boar kills Adonis with an over-enthusiastic, toothy blowjob. Come on, you know I'm right. The poor old boar knows he's in trouble, and it's not only fear he feels. He grovels to Aphrodite and practically begs her to sever his tusks, to cut out his lips. But she releases him, and even then the boar voluntarily immolates his tusks. Are we to see this as some kind of castration, self-emasculation too? With his burned-off tusks, the boar is no longer a physical menace, no longer a force to be reckoned with, just a hairy pig, and he subserviently follows Aphrodite for the rest of his days as a self-imposed exile simp. I can't quite articulate my thoughts, my feelings about this. So what do the scholars say? Well, I spent a whole afternoon in my local classics library and I could find precious little commentary on this poem beyond its provenance and potential dating. Side note, though in the manuscripts the poem is collected alongside the 3rd and 2nd century BCE Hellenistic poets Theocritus and Bion, I think the consensus is that it's a late imperial era poem rather than Hellenistic proper, but according to Reed, its metrical features means it can't be much later than the 3rd century AD. The only commentary on the themes and artistic literary features that I could find was Sistakou's paper that I cited earlier. She places the poem within a larger tradition of Hellenistic and post-Hellenistic Adonis poetry, the prime exemplar of which is Bion's Lament for Adonis, and in this poem, the dead Adonis, pain and pleasure, beauty and suffering are coupled to create a sensation that is well documented in similar depictions in late Hellenistic poetry and art. Now, like I say, I'd never even heard of this poem till I stumbled across it in my crappy old blurb. But according to Reed, the poem was perhaps popular or better known in Renaissance times, and very possibly Shakespeare was aware of it. In fact, there's a passage in his Venus and Adonis that quite explicitly alludes to the ancient Greek poem's imagining of the death of Adonis as an act of oral sex gone horribly wrong. In the words of Shakespeare's Venus, "But this foul, grim and urchin-snouted boar, if he did see his face, why then I know he thought to kiss him, and hath killed him so. 'Tis true, thus was Adonis slain. He ran upon the boar with his sharp spear, who did not whet his teeth at him again, but by a kiss thought to persuade him there. And nuzzling in his flank, the loving swine sheathed unaware the tusk in his soft groin. Had I been toothed like him, I must confess, with kissing him, I should have killed him first." But back to our Greek poem. Once I'd got over the shock of the boar's speech and the grotesqueness of his fatal, orally fixated worship and slaying of Adonis, well, what really struck me, and perhaps what puzzles and unnerves me the most, is the ending. The boar's simp-like devotion to Aphrodite, and that very final image in the poem of the boar seeking out fire and burning away his tusks. I find that most disturbing of all, and I don't know how to describe what I feel here. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about it. Personally, I'm reminded here of Catullus 63, in which Attis leaves home, travels to far-off lands and castrates himself in service to the great mother Cybele. And I don't know why he does it, and it troubles me. But what's your take? Why do you think the boar burned his tusks even after being released? And why does he abandon his home and follow Aphrodite? Is he acting from guilt alone? Or has he redirected his destructive erotic fixations into something safer, neutered, subservient? Or is something even darker and more profound still at play? Help me out here, because none of the academic commentaries seem to shed any light on this, and I'm just left feeling really uncomfortable. Meantime, like and subscribe, ring the notification bell, and we'll be back soon.